Hoo-ha! Welcome to Friday Night Games. I'm JComX, and tonight it's all about massive gains and getting yoked. I'm talking biceps, triceps, deltoids, and lats, because tonight on the agenda we've got the action-packed arcade boxing classic, Punch-Out! Let's face it, as gamers, most of the time we're just vegging on the couch playing video games, trying to stave off the influence of our demon potato heads. Maybe that's just me. Point is, I could use some exercise. I'm ready to turn over a new leaf and get in shape. Let's get our protein on and start juicing up our glutes, gamers. Oh my god. Jeez. You know what? I've changed my mind. We're gonna skip all of that and get right to the video game. Tonight we're talking about Punch-Out! If you're like me, you didn't grow up playing Punch-Out! When I was younger, I assumed Punch-Out was just another Nintendo sports game like baseball or golf, but with boxing. And if I want to play sports, I'll go outside, and I am not going out there again. Video games are a place for colorful characters and worlds beyond imagination. Like Clue Clue Land. It wasn't until Little Mac was introduced as a character for Smash Bros. Wii U that I really took any interest in the franchise. I was shocked to learn that not only is Punch-Out an extremely fun game filled with interesting and unique characters, but it was also one of Nintendo's earliest game franchises. Little Mac made his arcade appearance long before many iconic characters like Link, Samus, Kirby, and Bowser. There are really only a few Nintendo icons that predate Little Mac: Donkey Kong, Mario, Luigi, Game & Watch, and of course Stanley the Bugman. So today, I pay my respects to the series by digging into the history, development, and launch of this arcade classic, as well as try my hand at beating the game. Normally, I talk about both the arcade and console versions of a game, but for Punch-Out there's enough differences between the two that the NES version will get its own video later on. Before we get started though, if you'd like to catch up on the series so far, I'd recommend checking out my Friday Night Games playlist so you can get the full context. Link is in the description. In 1983, Nintendo was on a roll. The Donkey Kong arcade game had made waves throughout the world, leading to a sequel and a third game in the works, as well as a spin-off game featuring Mario as the main character, which would branch off into its own franchise. Meanwhile, Research and Development 1 has been steadily churning out Game & Watch games for a few years now, and though the series has been very lucrative, the popularity is slowly beginning to decline. To combat this, Research and Development 2 is working on the Famicom, a console that will bring Nintendo's arcade games into people's homes. Enter R&D 3, the smallest of Nintendo's research and development departments, headed by Genyo Takeda. Takeda had made a name for himself at Nintendo since he'd been working there for a decade by this point. He was responsible for developing Nintendo's first ever arcade game, EVR Race, and helped in developing Nintendo's successful electronic shooting ranges. Because of the Donkey Kong series' success, Nintendo had accidentally ordered too many arcade monitors and they didn't know what to do with all of them. Takeda was given the job to create an arcade game that would utilize 2 monitors rather than 1 so they could offload some of their excess stock. At the time, Nintendo was trying to figure out how to simulate Laserdisc technology using semiconductors, which would require less maintenance than a Laserdisc-based arcade. The idea was that Laserdiscs could zoom and rotate images on a screen while it was much harder to do this using microprocessors. However, limited technology meant that they could only enlarge one image at a time. With such limited resources, they had to choose the most important of images, but they didn't have any of those lying around, so they just chose people instead. That led to the idea of a virtual opponent. Takeda also wanted to make a game that catered to the US market, since there was a lot more money to be made there compared to the Japanese market. So here's where I start mixing in some of my own speculation, because Takeda never actually explains why he chose boxing in particular. Like, why not make it basketball or baseball? Those are also sports that have virtual opponents and would cater to an American market. Sure, boxing was a very popular sport at the time, with the US being the boxing center of the world, but I also learned that the Rocky franchise, which had only come out a few years prior, was very successful also in Japan. I can't say for certain that Rocky definitely influenced Punch-Out, but it would be one hell of a coincidence if it didn't. Another thing that made boxing an ideal choice for Takeda's game was the second screen. They could use the top screen as a marquee to display the clock, as well as the boxer's names and stats. While developing the player's character, the team ran into a few challenges, such as how to display the character. If they placed him directly in front, it would create a lot of immersion, but you wouldn't be able to see the opponent very well. In the end, they chose to show the character's body as a wireframe so you could still see the opponent without losing immersion. Since the American market was the focus, R&D3 kept in close contact with Nintendo of America, which was still only a few years old at this point. Takeda would send developmental material back and forth via fax to get feedback on character designs and such. Punch-Out also features some of the very first voice acting in an arcade game ever, which was recorded by staff at Nintendo of America. Meanwhile, Shigeru Miyamoto was working as an all-around designer at Nintendo, creating both game characters as well as hardware designs, so Takeda brought him on to design the game's contenders. Miyamoto would draw ideas while Takeda thought of all sorts of funny names for the boxing opponents, such as Glass Joe, named for his weak chin, and Pizza Pasta because you couldn't get rid of him, like the sticky cheese on a pizza. However, Miyamoto didn't feel confident in his ability to draw such large characters and decided to bring his designs to professional animators at Studio Junio, a company known for working on things like Dragon Ball Z and Batman the Animated Series. The head of Studio Junio, Takao Kozai, apparently liked Miyamoto's designs, so he took them and sent back the fully colored and professionally drawn versions used in the game. This is the first time Miyamoto had worked with an outside studio like that, and because of the connections he made during Punch-Out, other animators would help on future projects like The Legend of Zelda and Excitebike. At one point, Takeda even wanted to use boxing gloves as the input device to simulate the movements of the characters, but thankfully Miyamoto talked him out of it, explaining that he didn't like ambiguous interfaces in games and they should just keep it simple. As for the gameplay, you're an up-and-coming boxer fighting through an increasingly difficult gauntlet of opponents. You need to learn each of their strategies and weaknesses in order to beat them before the timer runs out. Your moveset includes dodging and punching left or right, either at the opponent's head or body. Landing hits or dodging successfully will also fill up a KO meter on the top screen. When it fills up all the way, you gain the ability to land more powerful uppercuts on the opponent. Knocking down your opponent 3 times is an automatic knockout, but if you're good enough, you can knock them down once and they're out cold. Also, you only get 2 lives for the entire game. Even if you lose to 2 different boxers, you'll have to start all the way from the beginning and try again. When it came to promoting Punch-Out, Nintendo of America got creative. Look at this promotional poster. They got a boxer and did a photo op at a real boxing rink in Seattle. I love this so much. Just before Punch-Out was released in 1984, Nintendo showed the game off at an electronics trade show in New Orleans. They got the then current heavyweight boxing champ Larry Holmes to help them promote the game. Famously, Nintendo R&D3 had a pair of boxing gloves signed by Larry Holmes displayed in their office.
That's right! Even you can improve your body with a Punch-Out workout!
I used to look like this, but now I look like this.
Uppercut! Uppercut! Lower cut! Lower cut! Uppercut again! Up up! You're late! You're late! Get out of my class! You've been punched out!
Act now while supplies last, and you can get a second copy free! Give it to a special someone in your life, like your grandma, your brother, your neighbor. I don't care. Holidays are coming up. Just saying.
I want to punch out.
Alright, let's put this game to the test and see what it's made of. I'm gonna become the world's #1 boxing champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, Glass Joe!
Alright, I'm not super familiar with Punch-Out, but even I know about Glass Joe's reputation as a bitch-ass fighter. In every game, he's always the first boxer you face, and he's such a pushover. That's like his whole thing, apparently.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knockout!
Well, okay, so since I'm just starting out, beating Glass Joe isn't as easy as I thought it would be. He knocked me out quite a few times before I began noticing his pattern. His eyes flash yellow whenever he goes for an attack, and he'll usually throw 2 left hooks and then an uppercut, which is when I'm supposed to dodge and start landing punches of my own. Sometimes he'll do a surprise uppercut that's a bit faster and harder to dodge. If you're fast enough, you can also punch him right when his eyes turn yellow, which will prevent him from landing any more punches. It took me a while, but eventually I did defeat Glass Joe.
Fight!
Alright, I think I'm getting the hang of this game.
Piston Hurricane! Fight! Zap! 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 One, two, three.
Man, now I have to beat Glass Joe all over again? The main issue with Piston Hurricane is that after a while, he backs up to the corner of the ring and then charges at you, blinding you with a flurry of punches that are nearly impossible to dodge. This is his signature move, the Hurricane Rush. His attacks are relentless, and every time I get up afterwards, I'll only get a few licks in before he's back at it, knocking me out even faster than before. Of course, every time he knocks me out, I have to start all over and put Glass Joe in his place again. The upside is that I get to practice fighting Glass Joe again and hone my skills a little bit each time, but it feels like the progress is pretty incremental. Then everything changes when I learn his weakness. He was beating the shit out of me when I accidentally started getting repeated body blows on him. I realized that he almost always leaves his body open to attack, and if I just spam body blows on him, then he goes down in a matter of seconds. Turns out this is even the key to stopping his Hurricane Rush. If you time it just right, you can knock him out of his flurry with a well-placed body blow. Turns out he's kind of a pushover, and I finish him off with a couple of uppercuts.
Uppercut. Right hook down to the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knockout. Great fighting. You're an up-and-coming boxer. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing in the red corner, Bald Bull. Fight.
Look at this guy. He looks like a frickin' Looney Tunes character.
Come on. Zap.
God damn it!
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Fuck you, Glass Joe! You can never underestimate these new fighters. Bald Bull packs a wallop. Even so, now that I've got the basics of the game down, it's taken me less time to figure out Bald Bull's pattern than the others. It helps that I know him from a handful of times that I've played Punch-Out on the NES. His signature move is the same in both games, the Bull Charge. It's similar to the Hurricane Rush in that he'll back up and then charge at you. However, if he hits you, it's an instant knockout. You can dodge the attack, but the best option is to counterattack with a punch to his gut at the right moment, which immediately knocks him out. He'll do this move one more time, but after that he'll wise up and you'll have to knock him out the normal way. Thankfully, his punches, while powerful, are pretty slow, so even though he knocked me out plenty of times, I was able to defeat him quicker than the other two.
Zap. Down to the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knockout. Great fighting. You're an up-and-coming boxer. Quick!
Hey, it's good old Kid Quick from Brooklyn, New York. Hey, I'm walking here. What's the matter for you? Forget about it, huh? And, what's with his design? It seems kind of offensive, to be honest. But at the same time, it also kind of reminds me of the blue alien from Space Jam. Is that better? I don't know. Whatever. Well, true to his name, Kid Quick is all about getting the KO as fast as possible. Your biggest challenge here is less that he'll knock you out, but that you'll run out of time. The timer for this round runs down way faster than for any other fight. On top of that, Kid Quick doesn't have any signature moves for you to exploit, so you just have to wait for an opening and strike. Oh no, 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 no! Oh, fuck!
Left, right, right, hook, right.
No! You've got to be kidding me, I'm losing to Glass Joe again? I need to take a break.
Knockout.
Whew! I feel much better. Sometimes you just need to step away from a game for a minute and come back to it fresh.
Va te faire foutre, fils de cul de chèvre.
It looks like the key to beating Kid Quick is to fill up your KO meter and then cheese him with uppercuts as many times as you can. Eventually he'll catch on, so you gotta wait for an opening and then BAM! Down for the count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knockout. Great fighting. Pizza Pasta.
Pizza Pasta. Now that's a name. Pizza Pasta took me forever. He does this move where he'll grab onto you and you can't get out of it, followed immediately by a powerful punch and then a barrage of unrelenting attacks until he knocks you out. It's pretty much game over from the start. Back to square one. Glass Joe, Piston Hurricane, Bald Bull, Kid Quick, and then back up to Pizza Pasta. Of course, if I lose to any of the other fighters on my way back to Pizza Pasta, it's back to the beginning. This game is ruthless. I was having the hardest time figuring out how to beat Pizza Pasta. Every time he grabbed me, it was game over. He seems to only do the move if you attack him, so I tried waiting for him to strike first, but he won't. He just stands there running down the clock until you attack and then he grabs you. It's bullshit. What the fuck is this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, for sake. That's it. I'm going to the modern day playground for answers. You, Potato. This is bullshit. Why don't you try to beat Pizza Pasta, huh? I know. Looking up hints on the internet is blasphemy. I didn't have the pure, unadulterated experience of sacrificing my life and sanity beating Glass Joe up over and over and over and over and over and... Oh wait, actually I did. So don't tell me I didn't suffer enough. I suffered.
Not sucking. That's a shot. Not sucking.
Look, I do try my best to beat games without looking up hints online because I like to experience the games close to how it would have been back in the day. But you know what? Back in the day, if I got stuck, I'd ask a friend or people at school for help. I'm sure people in the arcades in the 80s were swapping hints and techniques all the time. You telling me you never read Nintendo Power or used a strategy guide? Hey, I respect the grind and dedication to not looking up hints at all costs as much as the next guy, and I try to avoid it myself, but I'm not opposed to looking things up. Honestly, what did you expect? If you came here thinking I'm some kind of beacon of integrity, that's your own fucking fault. Alright, so I'm gonna look up how to deal with Pizza Pasta's stupid grabby move. Okay, let's see here. So you need to dodge to the right. I could have figured that shit out. Mr. Sandman,
Yes?
why you so mean? Here comes a challenge like I've never seen. I'm so damn scared, my knees are shaking. Here comes his fist, oh God, my bones are breaking. So, after braving the gauntlet of the other 5 fighters, you have to deal with the #1 boxing champ, Mr. Sandman.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Introducing in the red corner, the champion of the world, Mr. Sandman.
Look at this f***ing guy. He's just walking up to me and I'm already shitting my pants. I assume his name comes from how easily he puts people to sleep. Right from the get-go, he's throwing uppercut after uppercut, and these punches deal significant damage. The only saving grace in this fight is that I've learned the ins and outs of this game by now, so I can actually see his techniques. Hell, I was even able to knock him down during my first fight against him.
Down for the count.
For one magical moment, the thought even crossed my mind, hey, I might be able to win this thing, before reality came smashing down on my face and it's back to the very f***ing beginning. Glass Joe, piece of cake. Piston Hurricane, Piston Hurra lame. Bald Bull, time to retire. You know, I'm starting to notice that once I've beaten a boxer, they seem to be much easier to beat again. When I first face off against them, they're super intimidating. But once I know I can beat them, their psychological grip on me is broken. Like Kid Quick, for example. I used to think he was hard, but now he's already down and out. Pizza Pasta puts up a good fight, but it's too late.
I've seen everything. You know, I've seen it all.
Before I know it, I'm back face to face with Mr. Sandman again. Let's go. Sandman!
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I'm the champion of the world! Oh my god, is that my face? Dude, that is amazing. Well, I guess wait a minute. Oh shit, yellow wireframe. Glass Joe has blue boxing gloves? Oh no. This is a hard mode, isn't it? I'm not playing that. Besides, we still have to talk about the release and legacy of Punch-Out! When Punch-Out first released in 1984, it was very successful. In the US, it topped the charts, becoming one of the most popular arcade games in 1984, which is all the more impressive considering this was the year after the Atari video game crash. And in Japan, it was the second top-grossing arcade cabinet in the month of April. Of course, it was no Donkey Kong, but it was popular enough that even my dad knows about this one. Isn't that right, Dad?
This is ridiculous. Are you still making these videos?
Thanks, Dad.
What I remember about Punch-Out is it was more complex than a lot of the video games that we played in that time. We had a joystick for most of them or whatever, and this one just was more complicated. There was more buttons. You were trying to punch out people, but you still had to try not get punched out. I remember I liked it, but I kept getting my ass kicked, so I didn't play it a lot because nobody likes to get their ass kicked. I remember some of the characters. There was like I think a little Italian guy or something. There was a bigger dude that was kind of worthless. I don't know that we paid attention too much about who was putting it out, but the graphics were way cool, so we loved the graphics, and it was different than all the other games that were out. I mean, Atari had a black and white boxing thing that they were the exact same dudes, and you just had that joystick and the button. There wasn't a whole bunch of things that you could do. So, that's where I started. So this was a big deal to have all the punches and you could dodge and all that crap. So it was way advanced for that time. I know that when I looked it up and everything, it made me want to play it again. I was like, oh, sweet. I do remember that.
Because of its popularity, later that same year, a sequel was made, Super Punch-Out, featuring all new boxers, but this time with Space Jam rules. That's right, straight up illegal shit. Even Game & Watch got in on the action with boxing, which was distributed as Punch-Out here in the US. Don't worry, both of these games will be featured in their own videos. R&D3 also created a spin-off game, Arm Wrestling, in 1985 with a similar gameplay and art style as Punch-Out. It was much less successful than Punch-Out and will not be getting its own video. Plus, it was released after Nintendo was fully transitioning over into developing games for the Famicom. Little Mac would also make appearances in several other video games, and the series would continue both on the Super Nintendo and Wii. Speaking of making appearances, check out who shows up in the background. If you look into the crowd, you can see our old pals Mario and Donkey Kong spectating as you make your climb towards the championship. Looks like they've put their differences aside and they've already become friends. I love little Easter eggs like this. It's such a small detail, but I like imagining that all of the Nintendo characters live in the same universe. Personally, I really enjoyed my time with Punch-Out. I got addicted to the reflex-based arcade gameplay loop and loved the colorful cast of characters. The difficulty is tough, but not so hard that it felt like I couldn't beat it. If you aren't into these reaction-based games, then this probably isn't the game for you, but if you are, then I'd highly recommend giving Punch-Out a try. Another thing you may have noticed is, look. As a longtime Nintendo fan, I think it's fair to say that there's a distinct lack of iconic people of color in their games. They have gotten better over time, but back in the day this was the best you got, which is not good. It was kind of cool to see more diverse characters just because that's kind of rare with these old Nintendo games, but these depictions leave a lot to be desired. So it's something to keep in mind if you're looking to revisit these games. And another thing, what's this bullshit about the main character allegedly not being Little Mac? Yeah, that's right. People online are saying that this is the Challenger, and giving him his own distinct page on the wikis and shit. That's absurd. Just because Jumpman had a completely different name and looked weird in Donkey Kong doesn't mean that's not Mario. There are Punch-Out games where Little Mac looks way more different than he does here, and he's still called Little Mac. Even my boy Sakurai, Mr. Super Smash Bros. Himself, said that this is Little Mac. Where's the wiki police? These writers are getting too big for their britches. Well, it's been 14 years since the last Punch-Out game was released, so it's long past due for another entry. Hopefully the franchise won't stay dormant for too much longer, but in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this journey with me to discover an old classic and one of Nintendo's oldest hidden gems. And don't forget to subscribe because next time, we're finally going back to the Game & Watch, baby! I know a lot of you have been waiting for this next entry into the series, so join me as I take a look at the Microversus series and Super Color series right here on Friday Night Games. This week we have 4 new subscriber shoutouts. Thank you to The Hylian Batman, Mr. Ninchat2537, Ryoko77, and Mr. Sirius79 for your wonderful comments. It means the world to me. You guys rock. Thank you so much for watching.